Good evening, and welcome to the State Committee on Research Innovators Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It's truly, yes, a round of applause for an exciting event. I have the privilege of making a couple of introductions of those that are going to preside over this ceremony this evening. I get to introduce two gentlemen. Larry Hinsman, the Vice Chancellor for Research and Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Professor Hinsman, primary research interests involve permafrost hydrology. He served as the director of the UAF International Arctic Research Center from 2017 to 2015 and currently serves as the U.S. delegate and vice president of the International Arctic Science Committee. He is a member of the State Committee for Research. And also Kevin Meyer. Kevin Meyer serves as Lieutenant Governor of Alaska. In this capacity, he leads the state's Division of Elections, is the co-chair of the Alaska State Committee for Research, a member of the Alaska Workforce Investment Board, the designated chair of the Alaska Historical Commission, and an ex officio board member of Alaska Travel Industry Association. Lieutenant Governor Meyer has had a long career in public service, having served 8 years on the Anchorage Assembly, 8 years in the State House of Representatives, and 10 years in the Alaska State Senate. So at this time, I'd like to invite Larry Hinsman to the podium.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to be here again for these inductions. This is wonderful. I'd like to start out by thanking the Juneau Economic Development Council for hosting this every year. This is the third year, I believe, that we've had the Innovation Hall of Fame here at the Innovation Summit, and it's just a great opportunity. So I'm very pleased to thank the Innovation Summit and the Juneau Economic Development Corp. Thank you. So I'll start out. The State Committee on Research. The State Committee on Research was established to guide the university in establishing the high research priorities. What is it we need to take on? And also, they're doing it from a perspective of research and development, but also from the perspective of what we can do to stimulate the economic diversification of our state. And so innovation is just prime in association with that. And so it's a good mechanism to lead us forward and really help us address the research needs of the state, but also move those ideas into licenses, into patents, into commercialization. And they've really done a lot to help us. And the university really welcomes and needs this guidance from our leaders across the state, and we value that. But we also value recommendations on what we should be taking on for research activities. So I want to just really quickly say that the two co-chairs of the Statewide Committee on Research are the Lieutenant Governor Meyer and Paul Lair, who's our Vice President for Academic Affairs and Research. The other members of the Statewide Committee on Research are Amy DeVaris of the USGS, Jim Hemseth of the Alaska Industrial Development Authority, Brian Holst, who's here and the chair of this event, John Stalvey, Interim Provost of the UAA, Anupma Prakash, our Provost at UAF, Mark Myers, former Director of the USGS, Pips Veazey is a Principal Investigator of SCoR, Richard Glenn, who's the Executive Vice President of ARSC, Arctic Slope Regional Corp, Alex Hills, who will be up on stage here in a minute, Meade Treadwell, former Lieutenant Governor of the state of Alaska, Steve Gray, Director of the USGS Alaska Climate Science Center, myself, and Tom Thornton, who's the Vice Provost of UAS. We have three executive officials: Fran Ulmer, former Lieutenant Governor, Brian Barnes, Director of the Embry Program at UAF, and Denise Thorsten, who's the Director of the NASA SCoR. So SCoR, the Statewide Committee on Research, established the Innovators Hall of Fame in 2014 to really celebrate and honor the outstanding individuals who put Alaska on the map as leaders in innovation and to contribute to Alaska's growing culture of innovation. And so this is the criteria are actually pretty rigid, and to become inducted into the Hall of Fame is a real honor, and we're really proud of these people. So our inductees have to have demonstrated innovation in creating or facilitating inventions or lifetime achievements in their field that have made a tangible impact on the quality of life, economic development, the environment, and the welfare of people in Alaska, or a global impact. The inductees are inventors or innovators in the fields of science, engineering, and technology. We also celebrate, the inductees must be an Alaska resident, but we also celebrate traditional or historic inventions, even though we may not know the name of the inventor. And we've got one of those for us tonight, too, so we're excited about that. So with that, I will ask our Lieutenant Governor and co-chair of SCoR to introduce the inductees.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that nice introduction. So I see myself on the screen here. I'm getting a little worried. My wife's right. I do need to go on a diet, so this just shows. Anyway, okay. So it's truly an honor for me tonight to be able to introduce our inductees into the Hall of Fame. I was reading the bios here on the folks that are going to be inducted tonight, and it's just an honor for me to be able to introduce them. So let me start with the first one is Dr. Ling Pan. Innovation isn't a buzzword; it's a way of life for Dr. Pan. A decade ago, Dr. Pan created the Arctic Innovation Competition to stimulate innovative ideas and bring a pipeline of creative solutions to Alaska, the circumpolar north, and the Arctic. Dr. Land's competition has helped Alaskans follow their dreams by providing more than $240,000 to budding entrepreneurs of all ages to build prototypes and encourage their business ventures. Dr. Land is a professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks School of Management, where he researches and teaches mass innovation. Unfortunately, Dr. Land is not able to attend tonight, to attend this ceremony, but let's go ahead and give him a round of applause and recognition of this induction. Okay, so our next inductee is here, boy, this is an amazing story here. After a debilitating ATV accident, left him bedridden for about a month, Dr. Robert Trey Coker started thinking about what could be done to prevent physical decline in older adults. Now, Dr. Coker's company, Essential Blends LLC, is testing nutritional products that prevent muscle loss without gaining weight. The company received the first Small Business Innovations and Research grant from the National Institute of Health, with a subaward to the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and Dr. Coker has filed 2 patent applications for their products. This recognition honors his world-class research and business venture. As part of a $11.8 million Phase 2 Small Business Technology Transfer Grant, Dr. Coker will now lead the first NIH-sponsored clinical trial in geriatric population at UAF. The clinical trials begin February 2020. Congratulations, Dr. Coker. Okay, do I give him the award now? Okay. Do I have the awards? Oh, here they are. Okay, good. Thank you. We didn't rehearse this, so.
Wow. Thank you very much. I appreciate those exceptionally kind words. I'd like to thank Dr. Dan White and everyone at the University of Alaska Fairbanks for providing this opportunity that started in 2013. I would also like to voice my appreciation to my 2 business partners at Essential Blends, Dr. Robert Wolf and Mr. Freddie Wolf. It's also important to thank the National Institutes of Health and the American taxpayer because they really provided, through some competitive grants, the opportunity to mitigate sarcopenia, heart disease, and substance abuse through the development of some of these products. I'd like to thank my family, my dad and my mother, Bob and Lana Coker, my wife Cherie Coker, who's sitting down here taking a picture with her pink phone so she can keep up with it. That's the rationale that I was told anyway. My two stepchildren, Quentin Kipling. All these individuals and other members of my family have been indelible and enthusiastic in their support. I'd like to thank, I'm having a gap here. I rehearsed this. Help me out, Cherie. Who, my participants? Exactly. I thought there was one other group, but you get up here and you get stage fright if you're a scientist. And, but finally, with Cherie's help, probably one of the most important group of individuals are the research participants themselves, because for this type of work, it would be impossible to do it without them. And those individuals, as well as the Fairbanks community, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Coker, and congratulations. Okay, the next inductee is going to be a challenge for me with the native language, so bear with me. The next is a celebration of a unique innovation, the Alutiiq Unyuk. Crafted for Kodiak's notorious rough waters, these historic skin-covered open boats were used in Alutiiq society for harvesting and traveling more than 400 years ago. The boat's bulbous bow decreases the amount of force needed to propel the boat forward and ensures stability, a design that is now considered the standard in shipbuilding worldwide. Although the construction of Unyuk was set aside after the Russian conquest of Kodiak, anthropologist Dr. Sven Håkansson Jr., in collaboration with the community of Alkiak and the Burke Museum, is now leading the effort to reawaken the art of Unyuk building. We honor the creativity, traditional ecological knowledge, and craftsmanship of the Alutiiq Unyuk and induct these large open boats into the Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame class of 2020. So I'm going to, this award goes to Dr. Håkansson. Dr. Håkansson, if you will come up and accept the award, please. I hope I said everything pretty close. Okay.
First player na sinak. Kuya wich so maganik akyach mugni. I want to thank the community of Akiak for making this possible, for bringing this knowledge to light. If it wasn't for the village and the family, the Semyonov family, Mitch and Judy, Spiridon and Sherry, and Tikhon Semyonov, hosting a camp, the knowledge of this Unyuk open boat vessel wouldn't have come to light. They gave us a platform to be able to bring knowledge back. And since 1991, I've been interested in this open vessel called Unyuk. And Kodiak, where I grew up, we didn't have those. They didn't exist. This vessel was not known about for over 150 years on Kodiak. It disappeared by the 1860s. And so working with the village of Akiak, with Mitch and Spirit and Judy and Tikhon, we started with just building models. And we started with models because there are no full-size Unyuks that exist in the world. Well, now there is. But there's only 15 models around the world. only 15. That tells you how rare these models are, but how important they are. And that comes to also acknowledging our museums for caring for this knowledge and keeping this knowledge alive. But as we started looking at these Anyaks, we realized, wait a minute, there's some innovative knowledge here. This Anyak had this bulbous bow, and I was talking with my colleagues, this bulbous bow actually increases the speed of the boat and decreases the energy put into it. And I grew up on Kodiak, and I was told we're just primitive savages. But as I started doing more research, I'm like, that's not so primitive. That's pretty amazing. In fact, that preceded our bulbous bows that we see on these boats today by 800 years. That's pretty innovative. And so over the last 7 years, we went from building models to making 2 full-size Anyaks and using those in our community and showing the innovativeness and the engineering feat to the next generation. And I want to thank you guys for acknowledging this and also raising that awareness of how innovative indigenous knowledge is and also how valuable it is to all of us as we move forward into the challenges that we were listening to earlier about climate change, about our environmental change, about all these other changes that we're going to be experiencing. How can we look to innovative ways that indigenous peoples have lived for thousands of years here in Alaska and across the world? What can we learn from them, and then how can we work with these communities that still have this lived knowledge? So this is really, really an important thing for all of us to acknowledge and also start to look at. So I just want to step back for a second and to say thank you to the people, Mitch and Judy, Spiridon, Tikan Simeonov, the Burke Museum, Siri Foundation, Akiak Kuguya Corporation, the Akiak Tribal Council, Koniak Kana, Ocean Beauty, Woody Nabel, the Alutiiq Museum for nominating the Anyak project and raising an awareness. And more importantly, my wife and Balika and my daughters, Ailey and Isabella, who put up with me going off to try to search museums, bring this knowledge to life. Thank you for this acknowledgement, and thank you for raising and celebrating indigenous knowledges. Thank you.
So we have a special guest as far as the former inductee into the Hall of Fame, Dr. Alex Hills. Dr. Hills is going to introduce our next recipient as he worked with Augie many, many years ago. Dr. Hills is a communications specialist. He's really made tremendous contributions to our ability to communicate with our rural communities, and it's just an honor to have him here. And I'll leave the introduction to Dr. Hills. Dr. Hills is presently a distinguished service professor at the Carnegie Mellon University. Dr. Hills?
Thanks, Larry. And it's really a privilege for me to be here to be involved in honoring my friend and colleague, Augie Hebert. You know, communication today is instantaneous. Our modern networks were made possible by contributions of technology innovators, including the contributions of Augie Hebert. He was known as the father of Alaska broadcasting. Augie owned 5 radio and television stations in Alaska, but his real passion was building and improving our communication systems across the state to provide better service to all Alaskans. In fact, Augie was dedicated to public service. And he was the first Alaskan to see the potential of satellite communication for our state. The result was Alaska's first satellite Earth station. That was the Bartlett Earth Station up near Talkeetna. Some of you may have seen it up there. Augie spearheaded that project, and he was the reason it got done. That was back in 1969. But here's where the public-spirited Augie Hebert comes in. It was July 21st, 1969. Is that a familiar date? That was the date that Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. And that was a historic day for the world, but it was especially historic here in Alaska. Because even though the new Bartlett Earth Station was still under construction, Augie insisted that it be pressed into service early so that Alaskans could see Armstrong walk on the moon. And here's where the public-spirited part comes in. Augie made that broadcast available to the other Anchorage television stations, his competitors, so that all the people in Anchorage could see that broadcast. Well, that moon landing was the first live broadcast in Anchorage, and there may be some gray-haired people in the room that can remember when all of our TV programs from the South 48 had to be sent in on tape. Even the evening news came in on tape. It was that satellite communication technology that Augie spearheaded that changed all that. And rural Alaska benefited as well. In the years that followed, small satellite earth stations were installed in communities all across Alaska, interconnecting them all for the first time. So it was Augie's vision, his advocacy, and his persistence that transformed telecommunication services in Alaska. And that's why Augie Hebert, is being inducted today into the Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame. Now, Augie passed away back in 2007, but his daughter Terry Poor is here to accept the award on behalf of the family.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for having me here in place of my dad, who I'm very sad to say is not with us anymore. But I know he would be very honored to have received this award. I'd like to say thank you to the State Committee on Research and for Dr. Alex Hills for nominating Dad, and Brian Holst and his team for hosting this event. And I know my family, I have three sisters, or I had three sisters. My oldest sister, the one who wrote the book about Dad, has passed on, but my other sisters are still around. And I know my Kathy, who is the executive director for Alaska Broadcasters Association, would love to have been here, but she's in business in Washington, D.C. right now. But Dad, he saw the troubles in Alaska when the couples would come up here, the husband would come up and bring the wife, and the wife got disillusioned by being up in the Timbuktu and not having any connection to the lower 48. So he felt it very important to bring communications to Alaska. And bringing the first television station was very important. You know, Cap Lathrop had left him a good amount of money for him, which back in that day was quite a lot, $25,000. So that got Dad started with building the first television station. And he went on to build the first TV station in Fairbanks, the first FM station, and you can imagine all the trying to get automobile companies to put FM radio in their cars, even, you know, sell anything up here. Procter & Gamble, he had to do everything, traffic, sales, the whole ball of wax. But but bringing communications, connecting Alaska to the lower 48 was very important to him. And his philosophy of management was, I want to do what the community needs and wants. And with his employees, he would say, without you, I would not be in business. And unfortunately, when he retired, you know, the philosophy of management changed, and it was really tough, because I had been his secretary when he retired. And it was very, very difficult to see him go. But it came to bottom line money, and, all you employees are, dispensable. So the golden years have passed, but there are still many new things to come out of communications. It's always changing. You buy a piece of equipment and already it's obsolete. So again, I want to thank everybody for this wonderful award, and thanks, Alex, for nominating. Thank you.
And with that, I will close this part of the ceremony. So it's a wonderful event. We're really delighted with our inductees. We're excited about the future next year and the year after that, and hopefully in the years to come, the people who are making the pitches tonight will be up on this stage, and we look forward to their success and to their contributions to Alaska innovation. So thank you very much to the Innovation Summit and to everybody who's participated. So thank you all, and good night.